Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bald Avenger Show. Tonight is going to be an amazing experience for all of you. I have been excited for a long time. Me and this gentleman have talked for a very, very long time about getting together and doing something like this. But I am Jason Cisneros, also known as the Bald Avenger, the tattooed guru, the purveyor of all things common sense, the king of the Misfit Nation, and a legend in my own mind, Ed. In my own mind.
That. I like that. That's good. That's good branding, by the way.
Good branding, right? It's right.
That's it. Yeah.
It's it's kind of like that. But we're talking to a true legend tonight, and somebody that has been behind the scenes in so many great things. Where this conversation could go, who knows? He and I get on the phone sometimes, and we're we both look down and we go, well, we've been talking for 3 hours, So, but a couple of his accomplishments. Those of you that follow me at all know that I talk about my experience with him. We're friends, but I also consider him a mentor, and I don't say that about very many people. And you have heard some of the lessons that I've learned and picked up from him along the way. And we've also been business partners in the past. We're talking about doing some stuff in the future, hopefully. And, but most importantly, who this man is and what he's taught me and what he's accomplished. When we speak about, competence and accomplishment, it's people that don't just talk, they do. And sitting next to him and interview, he didn't know I was interviewing him, but every time we sat down in an office, we worked together side by side, and at one of the companies that we were building together, and just talking to him, it's such this wealth of knowledge. And I would run out of the room and kind of type notes and be like, and then go back in and go, hey, what about this, Ed? Blah, blah, blah. Or one of his smoke breaks. I don't know if you're still smoking or not, but.
Yes, I am. I'm glad I didn't start vaping. That's all I can say.
No kidding. I'm really glad you didn't pick that up too. That's not a good trend. But just a couple of things just to get it kicked off here. We're going to talk about all those awards behind him, but 5 of them are Emmys. And this is marketing, branding, advertising in that world. Those of you that may know the brand Fox Television, he helped them get off the ground when they had about 8 hours of airtime.
Yeah, they started with a very small slate, with very few networks, and only had about 8 hours of programming, but it was good stuff. It was things like Married with Children, 21 Jump Street, things that the bigger networks passed on.
Yeah. And you got to work with I don't know how many people know him, but this small name named Rupert Murdoch, right? Kind of side by side. And
yeah, for many different projects over different years. That particular project was led by a guy named Barry Diller, who had come out of the shopping networks and actually was working at Fox and had this vision to put some local stations together and start another network, and was very, very aggressive and very successful at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then also King World, which is well known. One of my favorite pictures that I saw when I walked into your room of people can only see like a little tiny slice of your awards, but it's like wall to wall. And one of the coolest pictures that I've seen is you and Oprah. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell us a little bit about that experience and her starting and beginning and how King World and your participation sort of helped kick that off.
All right. So, a couple of gentlemen that are no longer with us, Michael and Roger King, both really, really great guys, and a lot of fun to be with, as everybody knows in the business, at least in the television and syndication business. And they'd started with their father's business of marketing television shows to local stations, and I had met them in the late '80s in San Francisco at an event, a conference for television shows, and Michael and Roger were interested in having me help with a new show called Wheel of Fortune and another new show called Jeopardy. So and it shows you how old I am, right? So which are still 2 of the top syndicated shows in the world today and franchised all over the world, actually. And at that, so a little time went on, 3 or 4 years. We managed to make those shows very marketable in local markets. That's the way TV syndication works. If nobody knows what that is, it's all the programming that's not run by networks, so it's sold in local markets to local TV stations as filler around prime time, basically, if you could think of it that way. The afternoon shows. Ellen today is a syndicated show. The Judge Judy's a syndicated show. Jerry Springer, those are syndicated television shows, and they're very entrepreneurial. It's a bunch of guys get together, they put shows together, and they market them to local stations to fill that time. King World was the most successful at it, and Oprah happened to be a radio host in Chicago. If anybody knows, people in the Chicago area knew that. And they had some talks with her and said, yeah, we'd like to start a television show, a talk show. She's very good at talk, as everybody knows. And she's very good at certain ideologies about life and about how to live, how to do business, and she has her own point of view on that. And so we started promoting that show with Oprah, and that picture that you saw was the first day of her launch. And we had a little party in Chicago, the King brothers did. They were good party guys. They always threw good parties. They'd have parties at these events, and they'd bring Elton John with them.
Nice.
They were good guys to hang out with, to meet and network with other people. So that was a lot of fun. And I remember when we first started talking about branding that show, was they wanted to change her name. They said, Oprah, what kind of a name is that? So we had plenty of conversation around that, and it finally ended up that we all agreed that it was a unique name, and sure, we'd have to teach the audience about it, but we kind of all liked the idea that it was unique and it wasn't Patty or Jennifer or Helen or something like that. So we went with that and had a lot of fun with it, and we got Paul Simon to do the opening music, for the main title, and all the marketing materials went very successful, and show adopted really fast. It was really different at the time. It's like there wasn't, guys were all of the talk shows at the time. If you remember, Merv Griffin probably being one of the biggest ones at the time, and they were filling the day parts. And what was unusual about that is the audience was primarily women. So, it was she caught fire really quick, I think, because of that.
That's fantastic. So again, because at the time, there was no one that looked like her on TV, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very, groundbreaking, innovative approach. Talk wasn't, but the idea that, a woman in the mid '80s would actually become a celebrity in that way. And, back then, same as in some cases today in business, women didn't probably get, a fair shot at a lot of spaces like that. Men dominated the marketplace, and it was very innovative. And the big sell was all of the marketing that we informed the local stations with is like, look, this is a time that women are watching television. The kids are coming home from school. Right before they come home from school, they often sit down, spend an hour or two with television. This is the right time slot. This is the right topical information. And we believe it's going to be accepted by the audience, and it was. And we did a lot of work to help the local stations promote it.
So we're going to kind of mix up the conversations, because one of the I get lost in your stories, bro. Like the people that and the people that you hung out with, and I want to kind of consistently.
It's a job. It's just a job. That's all.
Yeah, but it's a cool job. Like,
well, it can be fun at times. Yeah.
It's a cool job. And so what I want to do is because there's a lot of people that were anticipating this conversation because they're business owners or they're in marketing. They're concerned with their brands. They're interested in growing in their brands. And so before we get into some of the stories, just give us a little bit of your belief, because I picked a lot of it up. Like I said, I mean, I took notes. I have books full of Ed wisdom and of your concerns about branding, because as you know, I'm a private equity guy. I've been somebody who's been a turnaround person, right?
Right.
concerned with the operations. You and I worked side by side in a disaster that we were able to turn around and make, massively successful. And
Patience.
Well, so I'll get to that, because that was one of the greatest things I learned from you. But business wise, one of the things that I didn't understand was the only thing that you have to sell is the brand.
Yeah. And it's, for small business owners, that's a very, kind of three-headed monster, because, you've got product you're trying to sell, it's, you're so focused on sales or operational excellence, and along the way, branding kind of gets shoved aside. And it's not that it doesn't get shoved aside. A lot of it is that people just don't know what it is or how to manage it. And I often tell young business owners and entrepreneurs who are owning their own business, they don't have to be young, they can be old. Colonel Sanders started at 64. So,
Right.
And it's really reputation management, and that's what branding is really all about. And you have to think of your brand as though it's a person, and it's like, that's what I tell a lot of people, is that, and it's, you can read a lot of articles online about branding, and it's about personification if it's not a person, and bringing on those characteristics and managing those. So your reputation can do a lot for you, just like as a person. Your reputation is the most important thing that you have, because it's you are your own brand. I'm kind of overshadowed by the real Ed Sullivan, so I had to reinvent my brand, because other people knew Ed Sullivan as, the Beatles and Topo G Joe and, whatever else was on his show. So, but that is a part of my brand, it's like, and I had to adopt that, it's like, so, but knowing what your business brand is very important for entrepreneurs. A lot of that is your own character, and it's, and how you do that is sit down and make a list of the emotional characteristics and the kind of things that you want your business to be known for. And those are things that could be charitable, could be kind, could be aggressive, could be thrifty. Those are kind of, emotional characteristics that you would like your business to be known for. And I wouldn't make a list very long. I'd make those 3 to 5 things. It's like, it's hard to push a lot of that information. The other side of the page, for everything that you write down emotionally, write something down rationally. And rationally is what is the utility of that product? How does it make people's lives better? How does it improve something they're trying to do? It becomes a not so feature oriented, but real utility that you provide people. And that, out of that, you can help characterize your brand. And think of your brand as a person. And that's the way brands need to be thought of. And if you bring up any major brand in the world, you will actually assign traits to them that are just like your buddies and your friends. That's a nice brand. That's a mean brand. That's an aggressive brand. It's like NFL has a different brand than BMW has. BMW has a different characteristics about its brand than, let's say, Victoria's Secret, which is a sexy brand. So those kind of characteristics, they need to be relevant to your product, of course, but think of your brand as managing your kid or managing your own personal reputation. And those are the things you really need to focus on to kind of make real headway with branding. And it's tough as a small business, because there's so many things that are to do as a small business. I've been a small business entrepreneur many times, not just work with big companies. I'm one today, and it's like, it's very difficult with trying to make business success happen. And think of some abstract things like branding. It's
Right.
like, what is that? And actually, by the way, the word branding came from actually branding irons, when cowboys used to brand their cattle, right? So as people would know who their cattle were. So, it's like, so it became a mark, an identity. That's important for sure, but it's much more than that. And it's something that the entire organization, no matter whether you're 3 people, 10 people, or 100 people, Uh, that is very important to instill in the entire organization because they are your brand ambassadors. So, talk about brand with, other people in your company and how you feel about it and how you talk about it. And particularly those who are selling because they have the most contact with customers.
Mhm.
So people want to understand, where do you sit in the world? How does your company feel about things? And I think generationally, even more so today with, millennial and Gen Z audiences really care about, what your brand stands for and where's its place in the world, and some of that really gets a little too political for my taste.
Right.
But I don't think the politics is really part of your brand. That becomes something a little more personal. But things about being ecologically, ecologically sound. It's like you're not wasteful. You're recycling your trash. You're doing, those kinds of things, and letting people know that you're a good world citizen can be a part of your brand and be very amazing to see how your customers react to that. They react positively to positive reinforcement. And I think those are the things to really focus on and really think about when it comes to your brand. The merit badges for that are called sales.
Mm.
When you manage your brand well, a lot travels, and exponentially word of mouth. Other people talking. By the way, there's no more powerful advertising than word of mouth. Than what I tell somebody about a brand that I like, and the same for you. What other people tell you, that's the most powerful advertising there is. And the more I can tell you about it, and the more I can characterize it and characterize the company behind the brand, the more compelling the story is. It's all about storytelling.
Right. So I love all of this. It's just, I mean, people are soaking it up. They're just, they're just soaking it up. So your brand is something, and talk a little bit about this with people that don't, because there's a mix. Like, one of the things that I want people to understand, that is gold that you just gave them, but there's an ego that needs to be set aside, right?
Right.
That I heard you talk about in one particular story, and and again, whatever you can and can't talk about, but it happened at CBS, and when you were involved in the rebranding of that, and then the David Letterman show, right? And and so again, you could tell all the stories that you want to, but what I want people to understand is that when we get locked into what we believe our brand is,
Right.
and we ignore the fact that it's not making sales, it's not connecting to the marketplace, it may be doing damage to your ability to be able to actually move what you do out there. How would you, because again, it's identity, and you're
It
saying
is.
it's my identity and it may not be connecting, and you're one of the greatest people at setting emotion aside and saying, how can I change my identity without changing who I am, right?
Right. Right.
But how can I change what I'm doing with my business and be very non-emotional about how it's impacting the marketplace, and how you're able to either grow or not grow your business?
Yeah, so you're talking about a topic that in marketing is called positioning, you
Mm.
know, and positioning is it's an idea that says, how do I stack up in the marketplace competitively, right? What are other products that are like mine doing? Where do they sit in people's minds? And you can't always occupy that same space, right? So somebody's known for a certain type of product that is cleans better and your family smells great and everybody's happy. So there's a position that is hard to occupy if it's Procter and Gamble occupying that position. So it needs to be competitively said, but there's a lot of innovative ways to do that and come across with that same or similar message and draft that idea, right? So positioning is an ideological thing, really. It's oftentimes we do it in what we call perceptual mapping, and that's drawing across just an X, and identifying where do I sit in that cross. So on the left side, you could put qualities like cheap, and on the right side, you could put expensive.
Mhm.
And on the top, you can say quality, and on the bottom, you could say junk. Now, where does your dot sit on that positioning? Yeah. And that's a good little exercise too, because, and you can do that with many attributes, left, right, top and bottom, emotional against rational, rational against other utility. And it's surprising what might come out of a few of those diagrams and say, I'm just not positioned where I want to be. How do I get, how do I map my business? What can my mapping be? What are the things that I need to do that I can secure that position? Because in marketing overall, it's really defining a category and owning it, right? That's often what we say in marketing. How do I define a cat? That was a project we had called TiVo, that was defining a category and owning it. So Kleenex is one of those brands, right? A Kleenex is nothing. It's like, it's not, it's a made up name.
Right.
So are a lot of names. TiVo was a made up name. It's like, so if we wanted to occupy a position, a lot of it was the curiosity of that. Well, when you do something like that, you do have to have a lot more money because it's something you have to teach an audience. But that positioning, north and south, east and west, finding where you want to map your business and where you want to be is very critical to being competitive in the marketplace, and it informs your brand, right? That's the feedback that you're giving the brand. This is the space that I want to occupy, and if I want to occupy that space, who do I need to be? Who are the people I need to reach? And what do I tell them when I get there?
Right. Amen. TiVo is a really great business example for people in, being innovative, but not ending up owning the market space. Right.
Right.
And talk about that a little bit.
Well, TiVo was a engineered idea by tech companies in Palo Alto, right? Mm-hmm. Silicon Valley, traditional kind of tech people. One was Silicon Graphics, one of the guys that led that, and I came up with a lot of new ideas and tech. And he quickly realized that, in order to get consumers to embrace this product, is that, it needed to promote the right features. It needed to promote a new idea, because pausing live television and being able to save programming was not something that anybody had ever done before. So it's but it was a very, very, very wanted and desired feature by, consumers. And, they were amazed that you could pause live television. Remember back in the day, it's like you could pause a football game and go get a beer and take a bathroom break. It's like that. That's basically was the stories that we would tell at the table. So the big TiVo idea, the big opportunity there was to get in the marketplace with a new product. But these guys were so smart; they had 1,000 features. And it's like you cannot promote 1,000 features and sell a product. It's like I don't care what it is. Even an automobile probably has 1 million features. It's like they don't sell automobiles with a million features. So we had to chop down the benefits tree and say, what is it that people want to do? And that's primarily what they wanted to do. And it was pause live television. And of course, the most beautiful thing that ever hit the face of the earth in technology, skip advertising.
Boom. Which is your world.
Yes. And the broadcasters and most of the people that made their entire businesses work on advertising didn't like that story very well. I remember one of the major networks we went into said we were a virus on the industry and we were a cancer. So, in order to spin that up, we had to show them new ways that they could promote their networks, promote their programming, embrace TiVo, because it was coming. It's a consumer product that somebody wants. So if you don't embrace it, you're going to be left out. And I think that that's a good story for small entrepreneurs, small businesses too, is embrace change, understand that change is inevitable, and that your business needs to really move in a direction that that is always looking for what's next, what's changed, and how do I innovate? How do I innovate and become a part of that change? Is there something that I can add value to my product or service. And if I do, there's lots of ripple effects. It changes pricing, it can change production, it can change marketing. But when you don't embrace change, you get left behind. And that's what's happened with the broadcast networks, truly, ABC, NBC, CBS. And I'm sorry if any of the executives that I know ever see this, but they know it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't change. I call it the battleship in the bathtub scenario.
Mm.
It's hard to move a battleship and turn it in a bathtub.
Right.
It's like and if you get a little too stuck and you have to be flexible, one way to do that as a small business is to make sure that you make some time during the month or during a week or whenever it inspires you with you and your team to have that discussion about change, to really understand, not get so caught up in your business and so myopic about your business that you can't take a look and see what's changed. And that's the number one job of a CEO, by the way, is to really look at change and to really be able to define it, be able to describe it, and be able to communicate it to the rest of the organization.
Yeah. I love that. Again, all gold, all gold. All right. Well, let's lighten it up.
Anything fun you want to talk about?
I know, that's what I was going to say. I want to lighten it up just a little bit, but this is how I am, man. When I got time with you, brother, I want to soak it up. I mean,
I'm good with that.
And I know the audience does too, but let's talk a little bit about the awards behind you. Right.
Well, I got those at a pawn shop a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
they were expensive. The Academy doesn't know I have them, by the way. So
that's right.
So it's during the course of my career in the entertainment business, I decided to get involved with the Academy. I really wasn't after a Academy Awards, to tell you the truth. I was there to kind of help the organization with change that was, affecting them. And it's like one of the big changes that we did was the Academy really didn't have much of a brand, even in our industry at the time. So we helped get elected a good friend of mine, Jim Chabin, who was running another broadcast organization, because he really understood marketing and branding and was a great guy. So we got Jim elected. I brought my entire business at the time, was over 300 people, as new members to the Academy, which it's pretty big for the Academy. It's like Hollywood's not that big. It's a small little community. And so we did a lot to help bring a new identity and a more, more strength and stature to the Academy's brand, because it had been kind of, it's funny, Hollywood is not necessarily a branding environment because the celebrities are so big as brands. So they didn't catch on to the idea to, maybe about 5 or 10 years of working at it really hard. But we changed the brand. The Academy Awards, after I brought 300 people in, then I thought, well, it might be nice to actually, try and get registered to get nominated for some of these things. So it just so happened that, we got nominated 52 times, and 5 of those times we won Emmys. And that was a great thing. The first one we won was for a show called The Tracey Ullman Show, which was a Fox show, and a very good show run by a gentleman by the name of James Brooks. He and a guy named Danny DeVito, which everybody knows as a comedian, teamed up and really just had a whole different perspective on television programming, right? Of course, Tracey Ullman was one of the greatest shows of its time. There was nothing like it at the time, right? So, so we'll work at that, and that won us our first Emmy. And then, time went on. It's like we won nominations consistently for 10 years. It's these little statues are you're not going to win it every time you get up to bat, but having 5 of them puts me in some good company with some other people, and I appreciate the recognition from the Academy. And it's like it's a group of friends, really, and it's like it's just great, So won one for NBC Olympics when it was in Barcelona, West Wing, the television show, ER, the television show, and Ricky Lake, which was a syndicated television show.
So yeah, I mean, little shows like that. So cool. So I didn't actually know that you had helped build the academy. I didn't realize that.
Well, the academy was built long time before I got there. So, but I did help rebrand it. And put a new identity and visibility on it that was a lot more. It was such a utility brand to people. The only thing that the Academy was really known for in our community was, hey, if you register, you could get an award. You know, and that's about the only brand relationship it had with anybody. And it's like unfortunately, the television show is not doing as well as it could. It did its worst ratings ever this year, even about 30% less than last year. And it morphed over time. But the Academy itself is a very, very prestigious organization to be a part of in the industry. Lots of great people, and everybody's in the Academy in this business. That there's a technical side of it. People win Emmy awards for lighting, like the lamp that's behind me there. Was pulled off the Disney lot about 10 years ago by myself at an auction. It's too old to be used for filming today, but that was developed by a company called Mole Richardson, and they won an Emmy for that lamp. For that lamp, wow. So it's Emmys. It's a good thing for people to be recognized, and it's like that's another thing about your industry. If you're in an industry that doesn't celebrate, success and doesn't celebrate recognition, you should start one. You should start that inside of your business communities. It's because the people that work for you don't often get the same kind of accolades that you do as a business owner, and often need something outside of your attaboys and pats on the back. Get your company involved with celebrating success and celebrating your people putting all their effort into something. It's like, and it's my attaboys for people that I work with just aren't enough. So the 300 people I work with, they also got nominated and they also got Emmys. So it's on I made sure that they got Emmys. So that was something that I could do for them that I just no words could ever replace, right?
Yeah. It's tough to say. I mean, I have my awards, here at my office, and they mean something to me,
They mean something to you. Yes.
They mean something to me, and it's the recognition of the work that you put in outside of the people that you work with, right?
Absolutely. And oftentimes, if there isn't an institution or an organization around you that gives awards, go online and make one up. and celebrate it and give it to somebody once a year or every quarter. Somebody that's contributing to your business success is very important, because they're your internal ambassadors. They're the people that really can do a lot to support your efforts internally and sell your agenda and help other people adopt your agenda inside of a company, and that needs recognition.
I love that. So I'm getting a question here about being nominated. Once you're nominated, are you an automatic member?
No, you need to be a member of the Academy to get nominated. And there's a criteria for becoming a member of the Academy. You have to have so many hours of television on the screen currently. You've had to work so many years in television to even get in the Academy. And then you are then you have the credentials to be nominated in a category. You have to pick categories. So you have to pick categories that you want to be involved with. So it's my category was graphic titles and animation, and that was a category that I won for because they don't give away marketing Emmys. They should, but they don't.
Right.
On the next shelf, those are for marketing. There's another shelf down below that's given for marketing, but the Academy is there to celebrate more technical and creative excellence in television, and it's a good thing.
Awesome. I want to get to those lower ones and then the ones behind your head, but it's interesting to me, and I know that everybody's thinking it. If you've got 5 Emmys and there's one sitting above it, what is that?
So this one, I'll bring this one down to the camera because this is an interesting object here. It's really heavy. It's the heaviest award on the shelf. So not many people know of this gentleman, but his name is Brett Strong. He is a bronze sculptor and a painter, but he is most known for his bronze sculpting. If you'd ever been to Central Park when the Brett Strong, that's his name, Brettstrong, that's correct. So Brett is an amazing artist. You can look him up. He was Michael Jackson's artist for several years. He lived across the street from me in the Palisades, and we became really good friends. So he actually did the statue of John Lennon that was in Central Park for years. And the John Lennon statue now sits in the Grammys office, the Academy of Music in Los Angeles. And he also did the eagle that's in the rotunda in Washington D.C. in the White House, and he did the NASA, the astronauts raising the flag. It's kind of like a homage to Okinawa, raising the flag. So very good sculptor. So Brett had this crazy idea, and I'll give you a look at this. This is a beautiful piece of art. He had this crazy idea that Los Angeles did not have a landmark except for the Hollywood sign. And what the hell kind of landmark is that? Because that used to be a real estate sign that said Hollywood Land.
Right.
And the land got taken off of it, and the Hollywood remained, and nobody ever took it down. So that's our landmark. Right. A bunch of wooden letters on some poles. So it was Brett's idea. And I thought this was a great idea, so I got behind it and supported. This is when Reardon was mayor. Was actually, pull this back a little bit. You can see how beautiful it is. It's was actually something similar to the Statue of Liberty or something like that. That was going to be dedicated to the city. And it was going to be about 500 feet tall with a laser coming out of the top, all made out of bronze, as a monument to the city of Los Angeles. Yes. And it's just an amazing piece. And, the front and the back I hope you can see the back there. He's just an amazing sculptor, right? So we worked on this for a while, and Brett had worked on it about 5 years before me. I mean, there's just so much politics when you do something like this, and I don't know politics, so City of Angels, that's exactly right. That's what this represents, and this just happened to be one of Brett's girlfriends was a model at the time. Nobody should know that. Brett, if you're listening, I'm sorry. So as a thanks to me for a few years of trying to get this passed, he gave me the prototype that he made, and I'm very proud to have it. It's my most respected award on the shelf. It's one that I like the most because it reminds me of Brett.
I love it. Yeah, I was gonna, everybody. I know everybody was wondering what's the one that sits above Emmys.
Yes. It's the Brett Strong Award for being a friend.
for being a buddy, and I know that means a lot to you. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about the other awards. That those ones below you. Those are Tellys, right?
Yeah. So this is a fun story. So this is a Telly. This is given for television excellence in the United States, right? So this was given to me and my company, by the way, not just me. So I got 300 people working for me. So it's when I say me, I mean the collective me.
Right.
Now, so these awards are given for, like this one came for Showtime Networks, and we had branded Showtime Networks when it went on air. And if you'll notice, there's a striking resemblance to another award here.
Yeah, his name might be Oscar.
His name is Oscar. It's funny, there's a Chicago foundry that makes most of these awards. They make the Emmys, they make the Tellys, they make all of this. And for many, many years, for about 20 years, these were given away at the Telly shows. And it's just really crazy, but nobody ever said anything about it looking like an Oscar, right? Now, right. People would come to my office and see this and they say, Ed, you won an Oscar. And I said, no, I didn't. That's a Telly. And they'd say, well, what the heck is a Telly? And I said, you don't know what it is, and you probably don't care. But after a few years, the American Film Academy caught on, and they talked to the Chicago Foundry and they said, what the heck have you been doing?
Mm-hmm.
You put a television set into Oscar's hand and you're giving it away as another award from another organization. They said, you got to stop doing that. We have that copyrighted. And it was like, oh, okay, we'll stop doing that. So then they did come out with another award that after that. I got a little bit of everything over there. Right. So this is what the telly looks like today. You know, an angel, a flying angel is what I call it. So you know, it's like it's a very nice looking award. It's much more contemporary than Oscar is. So you know, I like it better. You know, I think it's you know. But I do like the idea that people get confused when they come into my office and think that I won a half a dozen Oscars. You know?
Right. I know because all the other awards aren't enough. Like
you know, sometimes don't tell anybody, but I don't say anything.
Right.
I just go with that. You know?
You know, it's funny when we very first got introduced. God, how many years has that been? 10 years ago? And 8 years, something like
Decades.
that. Decades. Yeah, all that time ago. One of the first things that they said was that you had won several Oscars. And
absolutely. I
didn't remember that until just now, actually.
Those are some people that I probably forgot to correct over a glass of wine or something. You know, I didn't think about it. You know, correct. You can't correct everybody, you know.
You can't. I mean, it's just exhausting.
Full-time job.
It's exhausting. You just can't do it.
You know, it's like think what you're gonna think. You know.
I love it. All right. So what are some of the other ones? What are some of the other awards back there?
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, this is merchandising for award company makers, right?
Right.
So I'm doing my promotion today for Atlas Award Making Company that makes awards. So this one's kind of cool. It's an organization that no longer exists. It folded into another organization called Promax. It was called, as you can see, BDA, you know, and BDA stood for Broadcast Design Association. And it's the only award that they ever gave that was like this. And it was, we were such a big firm, we worked all over the world, and they called it the World Class Award. And they made it just for us because no other organization had done branding and marketing across the world with 209 broadcast networks. Now, there are only 300 in the world, so we did a lot of them.
Wow.
You know, so they decided that, you know, I'll show you the other statue that they used to give us before they gave us this one. And why I appreciated this so much was that this is what they used to give you, was this kind of plexiglass pyramid with BDA on the inside, right?
Right.
Yeah, so what is more stunning? A little plastic pyramid or this thing?
that disembodied satellite.
Yeah. So I really like it. I'm not sure what it is. Yes, it's kind of like you know, your stainless steel strainer you cut up and put into a statue or something. But yeah, I really like it because it's only one of its kind. You know, and it was given to us with a lot of appreciation from Jim Chabin. You know, and Jim put this together, and who actually ran the academy later. You know, and it was his idea. He said, we got to come up with something for these guys because they're breakthrough. They're doing stuff that nobody did before. So, yeah, that's a cool one.
I like it. Maybe they were trying to say because you're around the world, right? The first one, and it's a satellite. That's kind of what I would say from it.
Make it up, sure.
I just did. So now that's what it means now.
Yeah. So, here's a little thing that came from, this is not an award, but, you know, this is a little object, and I don't know actually what it is. It's just a little maybe paperweight thing. This is what we did when Oprah launched. We gave these out. You know, it wasn't my idea to give them out. That's our logo, our brand that we developed for, but, you know, never could figure out what it is, but I hung on to it. You know,
a piece of history.
A piece of Oprah history there.
That's right.
Yeah, so I have one from Stars like that. Oh, the New York Film Festival gives out a cool thing, and you can get it in either way that you would like. and it's a film and TV festival, for all you people that are interested in what awards are. So this is called a New York Film Festival Award. And you can get it like in this box, like it's a fine piece of jewelry. You can have it that way, or you can have it this way, which is encased in some plexiglass and has a nice little piece of plastic on the bottom, and it's kind of plasticky looking, but it looks cool. So New York Film Festival Awards, and that's the highest honor that you can be given in the United States. There's two of these: one Houston Film Festival, one New York Film Festival, and it's so we won awards in both of those. And these were for various clients. There's a lot of CBS on this shelf. There's a lot of Showtime on this shelf. There's a lot of DirecTV, TiVo. So there's it's fairly representative of many different media companies and entertainment companies.
And recognition for excellence. And I love that. And again, just from being, you've got a lot of people, they're digging in, they want to know. So, they want to know some stuff, but I kind of want to frame it a little bit is that this is one of the questions that was asked that I was going to get to is, how did you get your start in this whole thing? Right.
Yeah, it was a piece of innovation, actually. So I grew up in the advertising industry. Started off in a company called J. Walter Thompson, which is an ad agency out of Chicago. And I started on before computers, drawing and drawing layouts and doing things that they're called pay stuff. And yes, I am from Chicago. I saw that note. I grew up in Chicago. And so I started there, and that's when I ran into the King brothers, because they were selling their shows to advertisers, right? So, Roger and Michael asked if they could borrow me, actually, to help them launch their campaign. My wife and I got so interested in coming to Hollywood because we thought that marketing and branding was probably something that might be needed out here, and something that we could help promote, and maybe we could make a business out of it. And it took us about 4 or 5 years to really get these kind of ideas across about branding, and some of the things that I spoke about earlier, the emotional characteristics, the rational characteristics, how do you get people to embrace your brand, and personify your brand. That was all new to Hollywood when we came out here. So I can't say that we invented branding, but I can say that we had a lot to do with bringing it to Hollywood, and actually having put a new look on many networks, whether it be Fox or CBS, or worked for all the networks, ABC. So it was absolutely new at the time, and we did it for networks, we did it for television shows, we did it for movies, and we introduced a whole new way for people to academically and quantitatively take a better look at how they might have people embrace their shows and their brands in television.
I love that. And so that, and Patricia, by the way, is as much, if not more, of a beast than you are.
You should actually be interviewing her, because she is, first of all, she's more articulate than I am, and second of all, she's a lot more humble than I am, and above all that, she's certainly a lot smarter. So it's
yeah.
I exist.
I'd love to have her on the show. At some point, I would love to have her on the show. She's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. She would probably love to be on the show.
Yeah, I'd love it. Well, let's talk, again, moving through branding, marketing, it's given you some unique experiences. And I know you have a love of music, right?
Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit, and I like to tie things to a little bit together, but your son still plays, right? He plays with some major.
Yeah. So some days I think maybe the worst thing I ever did was put a guitar in my son's hands, because it's I think plumbers and electricians make more money.
Right.
And the second thing I look at is, it's music is a passion, and if you have it in your DNA and you have it in your heart, I still play today. it's something that, it's musicians can relate to. Is if it's really a soulful and spiritual experience. And that was something that we introduced to him to at an early age. He's never studied anything but music, unfortunately. He can't hold a screwdriver. He can't do math. He doesn't know what a grammatical error is, but he is a killer guitar player, and it's like, so he was a killer guitar player at age 12. So he won a contest at Fender Music had, and came in second, only to a 25-year-old who was, the contest was being held by the Jimi Hendrix family. And it was held at Buddy Guy's in Chicago. And I think the guitar was bigger than Eric at the time. It's like, it just got up and, you got a Fender Telecaster on, if anybody knows what that is. And it's like a full-size, adult-sized guitar on this little, 12-year-old kid. But yeah, today he's it's unfortunate the music business has really, been abused by the people who have run it for so many years, that it's failing to actually reward musicians who are some of our today and always have been, so insightful to helping people, in many different ways, spiritually and emotionally. And they are, fine poets and fine music makers. He does well. It's like he is a very honored player on the West Coast and around the world, actually. He plays with Willie Nelson's sons, Micah and Lucas, and once in a while is backup for Neil Young's band. And he's just always told him, I said, if you're going to be in the music business, be aggressive and be humble. It's almost an oxymoron, right? So it's kind of, but you do have to be very aggressive in any of the creative arts businesses, because there's a lot of people in it. So it means you have to be aggressive in different ways. It doesn't mean be aggressive as being mean-spirited and walking over people. What you need means to be aggressive at your craft. Is to really understand your craft as thoroughly as you can. And I really compliment my son. Nobody that I know knows how to play guitar better than him, and I would include Joe Walsh and Jeff Baxter and some of the great guitarists that everyone knows that Eric's on that level.
Well, and you jammed. I mean, but you jammed with these guys, like the people that you're mentioning. You played guitar.
We had this kind of a invitation that kind of got out of hand to our house where we hold jam sessions, and yes, we would have celebrity players come, and some of the best songwriters that ever existed. A songwriter for Madonna and Earth, Wind and Fire. Freddie Ravel is just an excellent composer, writer, and keyboard player, and a great performer in his own right. If you ever watch any Santana's videos, he's usually the keyboard player with Carlos. And so we would have a room full of just excellent players. It was just, and the word got out, and pretty soon we had studio executives who hadn't played drums for like 20 years, president of Warner Brothers Pictures. And we'd start at 7 o'clock in the evening and not get done until 6 in the morning. So it's everybody that is a musician knows what it means to be a musician and loves it. And I started the jam session thing again, I'm out of my mind, so it's like once a month we have it at my home.
Yeah.
And it's like, and my home is not soundproof either. So it's like, you can hear it for 2 blocks because we play with concert rigs, so we do not turn down. And we actually invite the police in for pizza and beer when they show up. So it's really fun, and it's like some of the best players in LA come and join us.
That's fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit, because we're getting a lot of questions about like you don't that agency you do not have anymore. You've moved on, and one of the great things about moving on and challenging yourself, this is kind of something that I've always admired about you, is that it's always, again, so many lessons from you. One of them was you were talking about, we were building that company together that we were building, and so many people around us were worried about us getting knocked off, and so on and so forth. And you and I come at it from 2 different angles. Me from a much more younger, more aggressive, less mature sort of positioning where I'm like, I don't give a shit. Try to copy me. I'm going to beat your ass because we're going to outserve. We're going to outdo. Where my employees are better. You know what I mean? Like I came
Yeah.
at it that way, and
Yeah.
you came at it from a different way, saying, as soon as I put my ad on CBS, the other channels were copying me.
Absolutely.
And that gave me a different sense of not comparison, because there's so much damage that's done when you especially today with social media, right?
Yeah.
Our realities are interacting with other people's facades, and rather than becoming excellent at our craft and just pushing ourselves through our own boundaries, a lot of people spend a bunch of time looking around them going, you can't copy me, and why are you copying me, and who do I copy? And we're spending a lot of time doing that. And that
Right.
really shifted. Again, it was one of those big shifts for me to look at and go, just do the work. Like it didn't have to be from my perspective. And again, if everybody thinks that I'm wild and crazy these days and aggressive, you should have met me before I met Ed, and then while I was working with Ed.
That's right. This is the toned down Jason. You know, this is the mild, meek, and mild mannered Jason that everybody knows today.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. And there were so many times where you're like, just calm down, Jason. You know, the world's not going to end. And so looking at it from that perspective, though, it gives everybody that's listening or watching this show a chance to say, what am I uniquely good at? Going back to what you talked about in the beginning, what am I uniquely good at? And how do I get better than I was yesterday?
Yep, that's very important. And I think that, you know, like I said before, I think everybody, even if they work by themselves, and you know, it's like working by yourself is a very difficult proposition. First of all, you have to be very disciplined to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very depressing at times, you know, because I've done it myself. But you have to find a way to celebrate success and understand where your successes are. And I think it was Winston Churchill that said, you know, success is just a series of failures celebrated. And I think that's very true. If you haven't failed, you can't succeed. We learn from our failures. So failure is not something to be afraid of. When people are copying what you're doing or challenging what you're doing, it actually gives you an opportunity to kind of reflect. It's you know, when we were doing CBS and we had another major network copying us the next day, first of all, I realized, geez, you know, communication's pretty quick. You know, and this business television, because it was all digital now at that time, it didn't take a week or two for somebody to catch up. It was the next night, you know. So
right.
That it was really great to see that happen, because it kind of became a game of one-upmanship. But what I understood was that we had a strategy and they didn't. That was really important. You know, the roadmap was more important than the execution. The execution is always, you know, we always used to say in our company, good ideas well executed. That's our motto. And it is great, but you know, people can catch up to you on execution. So you need to really sit down and understand what your strategy is in your marketplace, and what your short-term, your midterm, and your long-term strategy is. And don't do that. As a small business person, I wouldn't do any more than 3 years worth of planning, because things change so fast, you know. But that planning needs to be as much about how's your organization going to be able to affect and do what you want to be done. That's called your vision, right? You know, what's the vision for your company? The mission becomes, what is the overall mission of the company as far as how's it going to achieve that vision? And then the third thing, which is called objectives, becomes the tactical things that you need to stay focused on in order to achieve the mission and the vision, right? So those three things are really important in developing your strategic strength inside of a company. Mm-hmm. All of that sounds very, very academic, by the way. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, makes you puke sometimes, right? It's like, God, it's academic stuff, you know, mm-hmm. Stuff I heard in college, and you know, and I didn't want to hear it then, and I don't want to hear it now. It's so vitally important to map out where you're going to go in the future, that if you don't, you've heard the old saying is that if you don't plan, you plan to fail. There's a lot of truth in that, so it's really important to have a plan, because you have to benchmark where those failures are. If you're trying to achieve something, any athlete, any musician, anybody who does an individual kind of effort like that in life really is learning from their failures how to achieve the next best thing. I don't care if you're a runner, you're a swimmer, you're a football player. It's very much the same in business. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan for how am I going to get that first down? How am I going to get that that first goal? And it's like how I planned was I actually talked to other business people that were successful and actually understood how they were planning their businesses. And the first big idea was to have a plan. And it's like, as ridiculous as that sounds, I learned from at a very young age, when I was in my 20s, from very very well-off businessmen that were running large organizations. One of them ran New York Times, and I learned from him most of my organizational skills from him. His name is Jack Chin. He's no longer with us, but great guy. And Jack had been in the military, and I think that gave him a real advantage, because in the military you don't get a chance to talk back and not obey orders. And it's like, so in the military, guess what? They have a plan. And they have a big plan, and it's like, and it affects you on a day-to-day basis, and it gives you the kind of discipline you need to follow a plan, even if forcefully. So, and I think that that's one of the most difficult disciplines to get in life, is to force yourself to follow a plan and review that plan and monitor it and understand those benchmarks for being succeeding at the plan or failing at the plan. So that means you might have to turn dials, and you might have to start thinking differently about things. You might have to look at competitors. You might have to talk to other people. But the more you network that plan with other people, and what your successes and failures have been, the more you learn. That's what I've learned. So the more I shared my ideas, and people think that's crazy. Geez, Ed, it's like you're sharing your ideas with other people. Aren't you afraid they're going to rip it off? And I said, well, some of it ain't working. So if they rip it off, I don't think they're going to be very successful at it, because half of it's failed.
Right.
So the half that failed, I've got a lot of good advice from some other business people that had no intention of ripping off my idea. They weren't interested in that, but they had some good insights about things that were, sometimes they were academic, sometimes they were simple things that I just couldn't see myself. Being in business, it can be a very myopic kind of activity, and it's like, particularly when you're running your own business, because it's you're not a little god when you're running your own business. It's certainly not why you're there. You're there to help guide others and help make a product or service or add some value to the world in one way or the other. And you need some outside help with that. You need objectivity. I guess that would be the best way to say it. And the subjective things that you surround yourself with every day can get to be overwhelming. So it's
well, and you and I worked well together, on that, because I'm a strategician, right? I'm a big strategy guy.
And you're good at that. Yeah.
And your creativity inside of that strategy, and plus your level-headedness, really, it was a big undertaking, and
absolutely. It's a big undertaking, just working closely with someone else on their business. I found myself also at a very young age working in a big organization at a young age is, you're kind of contrarian and maybe a little bit of a malcontent. And, it's like, those assholes upstairs that run the business, it's like, what the hell do they know? Mm-hmm. I like the idea that I've worked inside of big companies and I've run my own things off and on in my life, because it's what what it's taught me is that I can be an executive, you know, and how I define executive is that I can execute other people's visions and their ideas and not have to have them as my idea, my vision, and add value to the mission and the objectives. Now that is something that can be very, very difficult for entrepreneurs. Is, you know, it's like being in the military, you know. Really have to get up at 5 a.m. today and run 10 miles? You know, absolutely. And why do you? Because your sergeant just told you that's where you're going to be. You know, so look for those gems where you can add value if you are working for someone else in a really significant way. If you can see things that you want to change or have changed, be respectful enough to know that most people, when they're entrepreneurs and they have a vision and they have a mission and an idea, it's a very sacrosanct spiritual thing for them. You know, it's so approach it with respect, not with a baseball bat. You know, they really would like to add value to their idea. You saw some things that you think could be improved. Also value their feedback and the idea that the first time you say it, they might not really want to change. You know, so might be reluctant to change. So sometimes you need to find ways to demonstrate how something will be better, how something can add value to the company. So look for those opportunities too. How can I add value to a company in a small way that might be significant enough to actually communicate to the whole organization that, aha, you know, something here could be successfully done if we just looked at it through a different lens.
Yeah. And not, it's so important for entrepreneurs to hear this message of not falling in love with your idea, fall in love with the outcome of your client.
Absolutely. You know,
it's so important.
Yeah.
And learning that, you know, again, I'm going to go over almost everybody that's here has heard me tell the story of you. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned is basically built around burning bridges, right?
Yes, it's. I think that's something that I can only recall that I actually did once in my life, and I still regret it. And even though I believe I was justified in doing so, I can take the worst situation and find the silver lining in it, so that there's still a good relationship between me and everybody that I have worked with, no matter how difficult the times. I think in my mind that it's hard to make friends. It's hard to make friends for a lifetime, and friends that add value to your life, and even sometimes the most insignificant ways, but do add value. And I think that that's important to me. And I don't think of people in classes or that, you know, this person's poor, this person's rich, or I think about people that actually can contribute to me in some way that's meaningful, and it can be emotional. You know, it's like it doesn't have to be monetary. You know, it's like a lot of people get thrown overboard in businesses because it's hard to be in a small business. You know, the ratio for successful businesses in small business is terrible. You know, it's like it's 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100 or something. I don't know what the statistic is, but you know, we're all people and we all have experiences, and we can contribute to each other's success in many ways. You know, and I think that's why I don't burn bridges. Because
it was a hard lesson, man. And I mean, because I taught, and I mean, again, I'm still more hyperbolic than you will ever be. Like,
yeah,
you know,
probably. Yeah.
And I'll never ever be as calm and as polished as you. I just don't ever expect that to happen.
That's your DNA. You know, it's like that's your makeup. You know, and it's like it's but you know.
But I value people differently now, and because what it taught me, Ed, you know, and being very transparent to my audience, what it taught me was that when I would burn a bridge, it was always about me.
Yeah.
And being selfish about protecting my tiny little ego, right? When I was burning those things down, and you taught me that in a gentle way that didn't challenge me. and really I respected you, number one, first of all, and still do. And it caused me to change my behavior,
No, I thank you for that. I'm so proud that I could affect your life in that way, in something positive, because it's in my mind it's kind of like do unto others, and where do unto others meets learn a day at a time.
Right.
It's like, and I think those two things go together really well. It's really difficult to do some days. I mean, there are a lot of people that are just outright caustic, and it's like it's a try and make your life murder. But it's here's a challenge when you have those situations: try and win them over. Just try and win them over. It's like just make it your personal game. Particularly if it's somebody that's very successful, and success can be measured in lots of terms. But somebody that might be a little abrasive and a little difficult to get along with, damn, you can learn a lot of things from everyone. It's like it's my poor brother, who was living on the street for many years and actually passed away a few years ago, was probably one of the craziest, kookiest guys that you'd ever meet, and had some life ideologies that would just spin my head. And he and I are probably two most unlikely suspects to be brothers that you would ever see. And but I respected his position, and boy, did I learn a lot from him. I'm not sure he ever learned anything from me, but I did learn a lot.
Well, you're open to learning, and I think that's the biggest lesson. That again, lots of them that I learned from you. A lot of business, a really great business, again, on the branding side of things, that has just stuck with me and allowed for me to have my exit recently. And a lot of that was due to the life lessons, the you being a gentleman, seating and having long conversations with me when we would go through difficult things, and being patient and telling me, Jason, like literally talking me off of ledges that I was about ready to jump on somebody's fucking head and stab in the ear.
I remember what I told you about.
I know.
It's like
that's my one fine for the night. But
I know.
But that was one of the lessons that has stuck with me, and I want people to hear that, in that if you are like that and you've got a sort of you're building, you're growing, you're looking to grow your business, and you're wondering why you're stuck in the same place, or why you keep having these the same situations show up, right? And the same kind of people show up, and you're getting screwed, or whatever the situation that keeps happening. Just think for a second, it might be you that needs to change.
That's very insightful, Jason. I think that's people don't have a tendency to want to be around other people that are angry. They don't want to be around other people that are raising their voice all the time.
Yep.
If you look at those attributes yourself, and say, do I like that kind of environment? Do I like that kind of relationship with other people? If you find yourself kind of doing that, and uncontrollably so, because it's believe me, business is, in fact, I don't think God invented business. I think this was a man invention. I think God invented the evilness and the hell that business is. I think just for some payback. But it's not a natural activity, and it can raise a lot of anger and emotions and frustration and all of that. Find something to chill with. I chill with a guitar and a piano oftentimes, just to get away. Sometimes it's just conversations with Patricia, my wife. We have 2 cats. If I just hold the cat and pet it for a while, sometimes, I don't know. And don't turn to drinking and heroin.
Right.
It's like, that's not going to make it better. But find something that kind of takes you out of that moment, and practice, turning the anger dial down, and turning the frustration down. And it's hard. It's hard to be an optimist. It's like, it's very hard to be an optimist. And it's like, I've worked years and years at being optimistic. It's like, yes, this failed today, this went in the trash, or there's nothing I can do about it. My optimism's built on the idea that I'm working a plan. When it's like, yes, there are going to be speed bumps in my plan, and it's like, and I just have to know how to overcome them. And if I can't overcome them, if I'm truly, truly stuck, and I do not have it within myself to actually figure out how to do something, I am going to ask somebody else. And I'm going to share with them. I'm going to give them the biggest dump they ever had about what I'm frustrated with.
Mhm.
And I don't care. I don't have any secret sauce that I mind sharing with people. It's like, my secret sauce is that I'm sharing it with others.
Right.
It's like, give me some ideas. I need some help,
Yeah. Well, and I love that. And part of, part of the development, I mean, I've gone to comedy now,
Yeah, that's fun.
and
Literally.
so, yeah, literally, it's funny, because unlikely, right? Unlikely
Right.
from where I was, but
Right.
but that came from that whole experience, and again, sort of that mentorship underneath of you, and with you, it I have never, since that experience of knowing you, I have never put myself in business with people that I don't like anymore.
That's
Right.
great, Jace. Yeah,
And,
that's probably a good rule.
I've just not, had any more problem. I've not had any more issues. I've not had upsets. I've deciding, like my grandfather that fit right into with your deal. He said, Jason, you can't be upset if you won't be. Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And,
true.
and I
Right.
never understood that. That kind of came together with knowing you, and then
Well, thank you for
making
that.
making sure people that have drama that follow them around typically have drama that follow them around for the rest of their life because of the choices that they make.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I think that very important to like and respect the people around you that you're working with. It's liking is one thing. Respecting goes even a cut deeper than that, and I think
That's
that
right.
that's important. If people that you don't like, and I've had this situation, people sometimes that I just can't stand, I have a lot of respect for it, and I get to like them in weird ways. I don't know.
I know, I'm the
It's
same
just
way.
me, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if other people can do that, but I can wrap my head around an unlikable person that I really respect a lot and gain something out of it. Now, that is probably not everybody's DNA.
It's not, but it's learnable. I'm proof
Yes, it
in the
is. Yeah.
pudding that it's learnable. And
Yep.
the word that I've put to it is grace.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
grace. I have been extended so much grace in my life. So
Right.
many, people that have forgiven me and forgiven my failings and my temper back when I was younger and those kind of things. Now it's like, it's finding those people who are looking for just a little bit of grace to be extended to them. You
Yeah,
know,
that's absolutely should be everybody's mission in life, is that what you learn, pass it down as fast as you can. Yeah.
Mm.
Help others as quickly as you can. I like doing that. It's like, it's something that I really enjoy, is sharing with people. Not everybody are compatible enough to to actually take advice and actually kind of listen intently enough or do things. But darn, if you've been through a few potholes and you know where they are, and you can point them out to somebody, darn it, point it out to them. It's like, that's one of the best things you can help other people with, is help them avoid crisis and mismanagement, and because that all leads to more frustration and anger that nobody wants in their life. So, and it can actually improve, but you have to be good at listening. What is it, God said, it gave us 2 ears and one mouth, right?
use
So
them in that proportion.
use them in that proportion, right? Right.
And I love that. And being the again, like I said, I mean, again, I don't have that many mentors. So bringing you on here, I'm just kind of giving you credit for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jason.
But one of them, that I want everybody to hear, is that I was so, at the core of my anger, at the core of my aggression, at the core of that was, I was deathly afraid to be wrong. And
Yes, right.
there's so, my life transformed when I started not just being okay with being wrong,
Yeah.
but seeking out where I was wrong. right? And getting and looking for input for people to say, for me to ask that question, where am I wrong here? And I was deathly afraid of it because of my upbringing and, you know, being on the street and, you know, you have to have it all together on the street or you get eaten alive. Right.
Yeah, it's a little more black and white, you know, and it's like when you run into that in business where everything is black and white and nobody wants to live in the gray area, it can be a pretty frustrating place to be, you know, and it's like I think it takes a lot to help a company in many ways, and I've been in that with corporate communications as well as marketing, is helping bring a company into the gray area where everything's not so black and white, and that can be a difficult process because it's you know, the quantitative side of a business can oftentimes overpower, you know, innovation, and it can overpower lots of things. And the quantitative side can not just be financial, it can be other measurements of efficiency and effectiveness and all the cool terms that you hear out of books that, and you know, famous business writers have written. It's really the spirit and the DNA of the organization that makes an organization work, and no matter how big or how small. And there's two words that I always think about when I'm working inside of a company or even our company. The first thing is understanding, and the second thing is communication.
Yep.
Those two things are at work, it actually accelerates success.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, one of the things I was most proud of, and I think you saw it, is that I love my people.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? That's something that I learned from you, Jason. Was you are the business evangelist. You know, so it's like you really take people on a personal level that I think that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten there themselves, and particularly when it comes to people that are doing more of the rote tasks in a business, you know, where that can be, you know, not appreciated. You know, it's like the receptionist that's at the front desk. I mean, what the heck, you know? It's hard for her to figure out how am I adding value to the company. But you know, I think you help those people understand how they can add value to the company. You know, smiling, greeting people, you know, asking them, you know, can you get them something to drink? Can you make them more comfortable? Can you extend a welcome mat to them in some way? And then the people that are doing the grunt jobs out there that, you know, in that particular company that we wouldn't even see most of the time. You know, we would see them, you know, maybe once a week or maybe at the end of a day, you know, even if that, and they needed to feel some kind of connectivity to something that was bigger than them and that they were a part of. And you were very good at letting them know how they could be a part of that. And you were very good at celebrating success. I think that that's something that you did. You know, you gave each of them an Emmy when they deserved one.
Yeah, that's true. I love, because they are my people, you know, and and I think that that's one of the biggest lessons. Thank you for that, by the way. But but it's one of the lessons that I learned, is that anybody can be a world changer, no matter where they come from, no matter what their last name is, no matter what color their skin might be, no matter what side of the tracks that they might have been born on, that given the right door opening, anybody can do it. And that's a lot of why I love business, and why now I'm kind of in a teaching mode, right, with my life.
That's good.
You know, built out courses, and I want small business, I want small to mid cap corp companies to build, and I want to do comedy, you know.
Well, those two things can go together, you know. It's like
look, if I didn't have a sense of humor, brother, I'd be in prison from being in business.
business is funny. I think it's supposed to be funny. I think it's I'm not sure how anybody could take all of this that seriously. You know, it's like so, you know, find a little humor in it, find a lot of humor in it if you can. You know, it's like it's an odd thing, you know. It's like I really love the creative arts. I like that side of me. It allows me, I think, to do things that other businessmen don't get a chance to do because they are not quote unquote creative. You know, they don't paint, they don't write, they have to look for creativity in other ways. I really am blessed with you know, the left brain, right brain thing going on in my head. You know, it's like I love playing guitar as much as I love, you know, figuring out a new business challenge or a marketing solution. You know, it's like it gives me a lot of satisfaction to do both. But I think the common denominator there is people.
It is.
Yeah, it's I like making other people happy, and I like the fact that I can help them find satisfaction in what they're doing, and dump the things that they really don't want to do or they don't like doing or they're not going to ever be successful at.
Yeah, you're really good at that. And that's where I think we're connected. I mean, you use your creativity in one way. I use it, I feel like that if somebody's going to live out the true expression of their life, they need to learn how to make money. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
they need to learn how to make money. If they're going to truly live out that full expression. And I've used my creativity to come up with ways to teach that in ways I wish I would have learned. Right.
Yeah, that's very important. If people don't believe, I mean, that's kind of a sinful, non-politically correct thing to say, right? Is that, all right, so money is a merit badge system,
Mhm.
and if people don't believe that, I've been fortunate enough to sit with the Dalai Lama, you
Mhm.
know, sit with the Dalai Lama, and he understands that there's an ecosystem that needs to be supported by finance around him if he's going to exist. And it's like now the Pope might take that overboard. The Catholics, and I'm Catholic, they take it a little overboard, I'll say. But finance is an important part of everybody's life, and being successful it's something that you like doing, and that you can learn to like doing or love, doing with other people, even if you don't like doing it, and getting rewarded for it is you know is a very valuable thing. First of all, it's like so you can exist in a
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
I spent some time in Hong Kong, one of our offices there, and one of the famous sayings in Hong Kong is "Don't work, don't eat." Yeah,
Mm.
and I think that's about as black and white as it gets. So
And it's true. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age where some of those concepts are being challenged by, again, your word is perfect. It's being politically correct.
yeah, it's and I promised that I didn't want to talk about politics in this conversation, but every generation looks at things a little differently. I know I came from the Vietnam War generation, and we certainly were a ruckus bunch. And it's like, and we were all about change, and we did our version of change, which is this is the change that we're experiencing today. A lot of the things that I thought back then about the world and life and how we exist and how we work and things change over time, and it's like just that's another thing to keep in mind. Everything around you is changing. I talked about that earlier, but certainly circumstances are changing around you, whether it be political or religious or financially. It's like so embracing changes is so important in order to be successful, and even to get up the next morning sometimes.
Well, and you do that, and that's what another lesson I want everybody to get is what you do is rather than, clinging to old patterns and old belief systems and what worked yesterday, you're in that mainstream. You're kind of, you're just waiting for that next thing to go, okay, how can I latch onto that, improve it and benefit the world and then benefit myself because I made it better. Right.
Absolutely, and that's a space that I personally enjoy living in, is an innovation and helping change, because it's a skill set that I know a lot of people have had. It's not something you learn in school, by the way. It's like you don't go to the I've never heard of anybody getting a doctorate in change yet. So it's like it's or an MCA, is it a master change agent?
Yeah.
So no, it's something you learn through life, and you learn through businesses, and I embrace that. So people actually know my reputation is, give Ed the ugliest innovative thing we got on the table and see if he can make something out of it. That's my job.
One of the things that you did, which still blows my mind to this day, you're like, well, I'm kind of bored of Hollywood, and I want to, like, I wonder if I can do this in consumables, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hollywood at one time was going through such merger and acquisition that you couldn't even get in a conversation. It was just chaos. So I ran into who is now a lifelong friend, a guy named Charles Pirro. He's a book writer, and he was at the Peninsula Hotel here at one of the, soirees that the, talent agencies were throwing one night, filled with celebrities and, talent agents, and everybody was walking around, and Charlie just happened to sneak in this place, and he's trying to market his books into movies. So just as a mean thing, one of the agents I know, William Morris, sent him over to me and say, talk to Ed, he can do that for you. And so, I kept on telling him, look, I am not an agent. I am not going to help you get your books into television shows. Look, that's what these guys do. I'm done, So he didn't leave me alone for a while. So he came back and he said, well, my family runs a vegetable farm in Florida. And I said, congratulations. That's a great thing. He said, yeah, and we've been trying for years. And he said, these guys tell me you're the marketing guy in town, and they've been telling me, our family for years have been trying to get a packaged good vegetable product to market. And I said, well, what the heck does that mean? He said, well, have you seen the way lettuce has been cut up and put into bags? And it used to be head lettuce, and now 90% of the market is a cut product in a bag. And I said, yeah. He said, well, what if all your vegetables were like that? And I said, well, what if they were? And I said, what does that mean to me? He said, I don't know, but if you know how to market stuff, we've been trying to do it for 5 years, and we've talked to the most brilliant people in the business. And we're done with that. We want to talk to people that are not in the business. So how would you like to come down to Delray Beach and talk to me and my family about this? I hope the Pirros will listen to this sometime, because they know this is the way this kooky story happened. And it wasn't Marina Del Rey, because it was like, I live in Los Angeles. I thought, where the heck is Delray Beach? He said, well, you've heard of Boca Raton, right? And I said, yeah, where all the old people live. And he said, yeah, it's like, we got a big farm right outside of there. So they invited me down, nice Italian family that had been in the farming business for 100 years. And of course, the vegetable market had been commoditized down to such slim margins that you could barely pay your taxes. Right. And that was a couple $100 million business, just on putting vegetables in boxes, and it's the NAFTA trade agreement had something to do with that, but also, it's just the fact that, vegetables are pretty much a commodity. A tomato is a tomato, a bell pepper is a bell pepper. It's like, so this big idea that Peter Pirro had, who's just still a great friend, and, his whole family, I feel like our family, and I think they seem to feel the same way about me, he had this vision. We're going to package vegetables, we're going to cut them, we're going to put them in a bag, and we are going to take, the sous chef for mom out of the kitchen, so she doesn't have to spend a half hour, 45 minutes washing vegetables, cutting in bags. And so the chaos ensued. And the chaos was that vegetables don't like to be in a bag with each other. Onions have a tendency to eat green peppers, and green peppers have a tendency to eat green beans, and the oxygenation, that's not the right word, but the gases, let's say, that come off of other vegetables have a tendency to eat the other ones when they're sliced and put into a bag. So it took us a while, but Pete was very persistent. I'm being the best executive that I could at the time in executing his vision. I knew nothing about vegetables. In fact, I like about 5 vegetables. The rest of them, it's like I really don't like. It's like I still don't understand Brussels sprouts. So, so we did finally, and Pete was very persistent at this, and I was very, very supportive in the marketing of it and the branding of the company. And we worked for a good 5 years figuring out the technology that we could put vegetables in bags. And believe me, that bag has a lot of tech in it. It's more than one layer. It has laser perfs in it. It's got a spill layer inside, so all the water goes to the bottom. There's so much tech in that bag is that it would rival a Mercedes-Benz. So he finally did this, so we finally got the vegetables to live with each other, and we went to market, and it was not easy to change the habits of produce buyers to buy vegetables in packages, because they thought that every consumer wanted to grab their green beans or grab their peppers and do those kind of things, and because they were fresh. But what people don't know is there's several things that are a little crazy about the produce department. Number one, when there's flu season, you're probably more likely to get the flu out of the produce department after everybody's handled it, and you took it home and ate it, or somebody sneezed on it and you took it, because they don't wash that stuff like every 5 minutes. It's like there are sprayers and stuff. The other thing is that the shelf life of a live vegetable is not very long. So it's maybe 7 to 10 days. So for those of you that work in the food business know that. So these bags, they can give up to 17, 21 days of shelf life. Convenience for home, for moms at home or anybody at home that doesn't want to cut their vegetables. So it was a brand new innovative idea that had to be introduced to market. Today, Puro Family Farms, you can look them up. This is a promotion for you, Pete. So you can sell some more vegetables, mostly on the East Coast, but PuroFamilyFarms.com. And you can see all the different varieties and all of the success that they've had with being tenacious, flexible enough to deal with a lot of marketing challenges, and actually pushed. I think they have 5 number 1 products in the marketplace now in the produce department, and that came from helping an organization. And Pete gave me such license to do so, and other people in the companies, to get communication and understanding in the face of absolute chaos. Product development on that product, I don't think there was anything more difficult in my life that I've ever done or watched being done. Not that I did it. We had scientists and all kinds of people working on that project. There wasn't even a line to produce it. I remember Pete had to bring it. We were going to New Zealand to find people. And we built a Frankenstein line. It's like it was a line that you could get it cut, washed, dried, put in a bag, and then put in a box, all in the same line. And not one of any of the same company made any one piece of that line. So it was an engineering Frankenstein. I felt like we were Frankenstein in the lab, and it's with the sparks going off and everything. And I finally got the line together, and it's a very, very successful company today. It was called Puro Vegetable Company when we started. Pete and I talked probably months about changing it to Puro Family Farms. I said, it's like, that's what people want today. They want to know it's coming from a farm. So there was a lot of brand marketing. Pete embraces that today as the core business value is the brand, the marketing, not just what's in the bag. There's a lot in that bag, and there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of operational effort that goes into that thing. Pete truly understands today that the brand is the most valuable asset in his company.
There's so many lessons that are buried in that, and for people to think of, when you have an idea, you stick to it, you put it in there. It was the same thing with you and I, why we ended up being in business together. I was like, I want to change this industry, I want to do something different, and then let you do what you did, right? And at best, I didn't know what you do. I don't have those same talents. I don't have those same skill sets.
Nobody knows what I do. That's my secret sauce.
Exactly. Right. I get it. And I think that I love that you said that, because there's a certain aspect to what I do that nobody will ever know.
Absolutely.
But what I did was I packaged up, right, what a lot of people do out there with their business wisdom or their business information. Number one, they've never run a company, right?
Yeah.
And number two, there's a unique way of coming from the street to where I am now, and an understanding to put it together sequence wise, so that would help, everybody that wants to learn how to do business better. They learn from the 12-week course that I built, right?
Right, absolutely, and that's being a business architect, and and when people get to know you personally, you become a business affairs manager in lots of ways for them. That they would otherwise have to pay, really smart people lots of money to do. It's like, so it's business affairs managers pull down a pretty hefty salary. It's like I've always been in the area of what's called marketing, and it's like there's such a loose definition of marketing. I can kind of be whatever I want, it's like I get to be a chameleon. It's like there's an advantage to that, because it's like I'll even drift over, and I have many times, into organizational, corporate communications, those kinds of things, because communication, like I said, what's core to a business being successful is understanding and communication. When your people and you understand what the plan is, how to execute it, how to monitor it, how to evaluate it, and most importantly, how to analyze that, and you can communicate that throughout the organization, it's amazing the acceleration your business can get.
Yeah, big time, big time. Well, let's end on a couple of cool notes. Tell us, what's one of your favorite stories of a celebrity?
Oh my God, no, I am not going to go there. I could get sued, and I don't want to get sued. But I will tell you this, several celebrities, if anybody's ever watched Bye Bye Birdie, there's a song in there that they sing called We're Going to Be on Ed Sullivan. And I have had Cher sing it to me. I've had Billy Crystal sing it to me. I'd had Robin Williams even act it out for me. I've had Richard Simmons scream it at me. So, having a name like Ed Sullivan, there's advantages and disadvantages. Maybe the disadvantage is having Richard Simmons scream it at you. It's like, but Richard and I have been very good friends for a long time. It's like, so
he's an absolute gentleman and a prince. I mean, you introduced me to him, and he's
amazing. He's an amazing
gorgeous
guy.
Human being.
Amazing guy. One of the best businessmen. Made $500 million selling Sweating to the Oldies. And so it's and I will say this about Richard, one of the best brand managers in the world, because Richard Simmons is a brand. Mm-hmm. I would see, and this is kind of, even when computers are around, people write fan mail to Richard. He sits down every day and writes a letter back to everyone. Mm-hmm. It's like he embraces his fans, and that's his community, and that's his secret sauce. He knows how to manage his brand, and I haven't talked to him for a while. I'm going to have that. Just reminds me, I got to get on the phone and say some hellos to him, because I think he's just such a great guy. I learned a lot from working with him. But those are other Hollywood stories. Yes, I would get sued for telling you them.
Okay. Well, just so everybody knows, I've heard some of them.
Yeah, right. And up. Zip.
Yep. Nope. Not saying a word. Never. Right. You know me, brother. I'm from the street.
I know. My Beverly Hills attorney do not need any more work.
Exactly. Right on. Well, any parting pieces of wisdom? You've been so generous with your time, and I appreciate it. Is there any parting sort of words of wisdom that you would leave everybody with?
Stay strong. It's like, remember, everybody around you is human too. They have the same bad attributes and some of the good ones that you have too. So give everybody a break. Do unto others. Learn every day. I think those are all things, and understanding and communication inside of your business. I think those are kind of my, key points that I keep in my head every day when I'm going off the rails.
Yeah. Well, and it's not very often that people get to say thank you to somebody that has made such a dramatic difference in their life. And again, to everybody watching, they just don't see me do this very often because I don't have that many mentors.
Well, thank you, Jason.
I'm glad you're on here, and I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to Patricia. I'm grateful for you being in my life and being patient and guiding me through a really life-altering portion of my life. And I will always appreciate you and be loyal to you. If you ever need anything from me, I'm always going to be there.
Same here, brother. So, thanks so much for bringing me on your show. Allowing to talk a little bit and allowing perhaps to inspire and help some other people.
I guarantee you did. Lots of comments and things and a lot of wisdom. I think a lot of people are going to go back and watch this because you dropped some really, really amazing things. So thanks for being here, brother. And I'll be talking to you very soon. I'll see you in the next couple months.
All right, Jace. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So everybody, that was it. The man, the myth, Ed Sullivan. You guys have just met one of my mentors, and you can understand and know now why some of the things that I speak about, some of the things that I talk about, you could see where my influence came from. And I hope you all found a bunch of value in him and in his words. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do these shows. He doesn't go out and just talk to just anybody. I definitely would love to bring his wife on. She is holy hell amazing too. So thank you all for being flexible. I know that the platform shift, kind of took a little bit longer this evening, but thank you for that. Thank you for being with the show. Thank you for sharing it. We're going to put this up on Facebook as soon as we possibly can, and just let everybody know how valuable it was, and continue sharing. Thank you for being here, Misfit Nation. I love y'all. You mean the world to me, and this show is growing by leaps and bounds. I know this one should probably hit 70,000. So thanks again for being here. I appreciate you. I love you. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing week. I'll see you next Monday for Just Jason Mondays. Peace.